All right, we are starting our live stream here for the end of the Heat Lakers game. Heat up 108 to 102. Still waiting for David to fix some technical issues on his end. Right now, we're watching Russell Westbrook driving to the rim. Looks like we got David back here.
Yep.
Avery Brown
How are you?
banked in three. 108, 105. Heat still have the lead. They got to get a bucket here. Kyle Lowry bringing the ball up. Would be nice to see them go to Bam, or maybe even just Tyler Hero coming off of a pin down screen. But we've got Duncan Robinson setting up a screen. Still attracted some gravity. Larry missing the shot there, though.
Uh-oh.
Hero trying to get in front of Westbrook, but Westbrook lays it in. And the lead is almost gone here. 108, 107. Miami still up with 2 minutes and 40 seconds left. Tyler Hero, stop, shot, short. Refs aren't calling anything here at the end.
My feed's a little bit faster than yours, so I already know how it's going to play out, and it's not well over the next 30 seconds. Right now, I'm looking at an offensive foul by Bam Adebayo. Russell Westbrook flopped completely as Bam tried to back him down towards the basket and resulted in a turnover there. So 108, 107 with 2:10 left. Russell bringing the ball up court right now.
Oh, there we go. Now I'm ahead of you, I think.
Russell three-pointer miss.
Yep. Lowry bringing the ball back up here. Staring down Russell Westbrook. Bam Adebayo setting a screen, rolling to the rim. Hero flaring back up. Still no movement. Still Lowry with the ball. Lowry using a screen from Adebayo, then just keeping the ball in his hand. Just strangely selfish by Lowry. I'm not saying it's the wrong play, but usually you see him trying to get that ball up pretty quickly in a possession. But
foul on Anthony Davis too.
Yeah.
Good overall game by Tucker. I mean, I know he's been kind of off and on, but he's been providing some nice minutes there. Kyle stepping up too, having some nice chemistry with Bam, especially in that third quarter where Bam really got going.
Malik Monk here, the random scrub Heat killer, Mount Rushmore. Just gets right by Lowry there. They're going to call a foul on that. This is a tough collapse here. It's not a complete collapse yet because the Heat still have a 1-point lead, but that might not last very long here. I don't know. I don't know what to make of this exactly. This has been sort of a game of runs here, David. You've had spurts from Tyler Hero, then you had a big third quarter kind of emergence from Bam Adebayo when they needed him. Obviously, they've been without Jimmy Butler since the second quarter, but to just give up the lead this late in the game like this, it's not over yet. But what are you making of that?
I'm not quite sure. They've kind of gotten away from Tyler a little bit offensively. He just hasn't been able to generate any kind of easy looks there. Maybe it's to your point before about Kyle being a little bit more selfish, trying to go into a more game management mode rather than taking any chances. They got a little bit of a break there.
Yeah,
as Monk missed that second free throw. Yeah.
Bam Adebayo here in the high post. Anthony Davis on him. You got a lot of people curling and cutting. Like the player movement is there. The ball movement is there. The shots
Duncan
just aren't
passing up
going
a
in.
shot. Oh,
they're gonna get Bam here for leaning in with the shoulder, I think.
Yeah, kind of ridiculous.
I don't know how. It's hard to disagree with that, with the way that the refs have been calling these things lately. That might have been better off as a no call because you did have AD kind of flying into him. But that's the way that they're calling it right now, David. That's just the way that they are. They're calling it this season. Westbrook with the mid-range jumper. They're just giving it to him. I understand that over the course of the game, but in the last minute here, when you've basically lost the lead, I don't know about just giving that to him that way.
No.
All right, so we've got a Kyle Lowry, Bam Adebayo screen and roll. Bam cutting. He's finding PJ Tucker in the corner here. Hero coming off of the screen. Gets to his spot at the free throw line. Drains it. Ties the game. 110 all with 35.2 seconds left. Russell Westbrook bringing the ball up for the Lakers. They're not going to call a timeout. They're not going to try to set anything up. They've got PJ Tucker on Westbrook. Westbrook with the falling away shot. Hits it. The Heat are going to take a timeout here. This is what Russell Westbrook does. I mean, we can knock him throughout the course of a game. We can. And the efficiency stuff. But He's made a Hall of Fame career on stuff just like this. That was an incredible shot by Russell Westbrook. There's nothing you can do with that. Like, I thought
No,
the shot before that, Bam just played him a little too easy. And like I said, you could do that you could do that in the squishy middle parts of the game, but in the final minute of a close game, this is where he thrives. But that PJ Tucker played good defense there on Westbrook. You just gotta give him credit for making that shot.
yeah, I hadn't realized he was 3 of 6 from three-point range, so he's having a good shooting night, at least in regards to his normal efficiency levels.
So what do the Heat
25
have
to
to
the
do
point.
here? Who should they get the ball to here on this next possession?
It's pretty obvious. Tyler, he seems to
Yeah.
be the only one willing and capable of hitting that shot. So I mean, at this point, you're down one. So just go for the two, an
The
easy
ball
two.
the
He can.
they've put the
Oh,
ball
they
in
are
Lowry's
talking.
hands over and over trying to set something up here. I wonder if you'd be better served just letting Tyler bring the ball up. They've had some success with small screens, right? Whether it be Duncan Robinson, who's not technically a small, but kind of acts that way, or even a Kyle Lowry screen. He's a really good screener. I'd like to see maybe some sort of pistol action or something to get the ball into Hero's hands early. If not, just letting him to bring the ball up completely, or inbound the ball to him. But we got Lowry here on the sideline. He's going to inbounds it. I think we will see them try to get it to Tyler Hero at least for the first option.
I'd like Duncan to take the shot. This could be the confidence boost that he needs. I doubt Spo would
That's
throw up a play
ballsy.
for.
They
Yeah.
oh, Hero with the long two. PJ Tucker with the follow up. Huge play there.
Oh my goodness.
Unbelievable game by PJ Tucker so far. The intensity there.
Udonis Haslam.
How come they're not adding it to the score here? I don't understand. The sound's not on.
Did they wave it off?
It doesn't look like it.
No, they just called the timeout. I guess
Oh,
so.
that's what it is. Okay. Oh, they did add it to the score. I'm kidding. Ties the game at 112.
PJ Tucker.
I love the play to get Tyler Hero the ball on a curl there.
Yeah.
He's been shooting so well on the move, especially in this game, but really all season, David. And then PJ Tucker to come in. I mean, he's just been playing with so much energy, and I actually think he's playing with a level of energy, not just tonight, but I thought we saw that energy also against Denver. He's just on another level right now. I thought the rest of the Heat, they've been a little slow, I thought, on this road trip to begin, but PJ Tucker hasn't.
No.
He's had the intensity, he's had the energy level both these games, and it kind of crescendoed right there with that
Yeah.
putback.
Yeah, good point. It's this feels kind of like a disappointment. I know we'll get into the nuances of the game already, but having lost Jimmy Butler, I know you kind of have to find a way to respond. And yes, they find some energy in that second half in order to pull away from the Lakers, but to allow them to creep back into it and to be fighting for your life here with 23 seconds left in the game, kind
What
of
do they
still
do
feels a
here? Do
little
you
bit
think
off. They've got to
it's
go to
hard to go in a
Westbrook.
zone when you've advanced the ball like this? It looks like they're going to play this man to man. They've got Tucker on Russell Westbrook here, at least to start, maybe anticipating some sort of switch with Anthony Davis, Bam on Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis has the ball, gets it back out to Westbrook. We're going to have PJ Tucker and Westbrook on an island here. 15 seconds left. Looks pretty obvious what they're going to do here. Monk coming up to set his screen. They try to get the switch. PJ Tucker's still on Westbrook. Westbrook's just going to dribble this. He's going to take this final shot from 3. And that's it. We're going to overtime here, David. Russell
You're
Westbrook misses the 3. Anthony Davis misses the putback. We're going into overtime at 112 all. And I don't know who has the momentum at this point because, like you said, the Lakers come rushing back here with this late rally, but the Heat kind of winning those last couple possessions here. You get a big momentum play there from PJ Tucker.
right.
Great defense there at the end. I love how they just refuse to switch it. You can see what Westbrook is trying to do. He's just like, let me get Tyler or Duncan onto one of these switches. They bring both of their men up for sort of like a double screen. PJ Tucker just goes right under all of them, and that's kind of the thing when you're guarding Russell Westbrook. You don't have to you don't have to fight over those screens. You could just sort of slide your way under those screens, and you can keep on your man. You don't have to switch everything. I thought that was a good adjustment. That was obviously really good coaching by Eric Spoelstra, telling them in the huddle there right before that final play that the Lakers drew up. Hey, if you're on Westbrook, don't switch it. So they
Right.
wanted PJ Tucker on Westbrook no matter what. And I think that took Westbrook by surprise, and that's why I think he settled on that three because, like I said, the Heat switch everything. Literally, they're maybe the most aggressive switching team in the league, and in that instance, they didn't switch. They left PJ on them.
Right. This feels like a game where they've had, at least offensively, kind of different personalities manifest. Like I know, again, they went with Jimmy early on, then he was hurt, and then there was kind of this meandering version of the Heat where you're not quite sure exactly what to do next, and then
Yeah.
eventually it clicks in the second half with Bam working through Bam. He was so good. Everybody else was moving off ball, those cuts into the lane, and Bam using his passing ability. But maybe he's tired from having to, apply himself defensively on AD. He just doesn't seem to have that same spark. They've gone away from him as the initiator.
He
I'm
looked
not
tired at
exactly
the end
sure.
of the third quarter. I think it was
Yeah.
Monk or maybe Wayne Ellington at the end of the third quarter hit a big three, and after all the switching, it was his man, and Kyle Lowry pointed it out, and Bam did the "yeah, man, I know" type deal. But he looked just exhausted, like he was huffing and puffing. And I think you're right. I think it's just a lot on Bam, but scoring. What was it?
14, I think
14 of
14, 16. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, of his points in that third quarter was pretty huge. So we're going into overtime here. Bam has 24. Tyler Hero 27 points on 11 of 19 shooting off the bench, 5 of 6 from 3-point range. None of those shots were particularly easy, David. You still got 11 points from Duncan Robinson, who's managed to make 3 3-pointers, even though he's missed 9 of them.
Yeah. Not
Um,
great.
18 points for Lowry, 10 points for PJ Tucker, which, if you could get 10 points from PJ Tucker, that's a big bonus. But Russell Westbrook, Anthony Davis leading the way, along with Malik Monk off the bench for the Lakers. So the Lakers are going to leave Monk in there for overtime, along with Avery
Right.
Bradley in the backcourt, Carmelo Anthony in to start this overtime period, and obviously Westbrook and Anthony Davis. And then for the Miami Heat, it's the starting lineup with Tyler Hero and Jimmy Butler's place because, of course, Jimmy Butler has not played since injuring his ankle in the first quarter. So Heat win the
A
tip
little
here. Kyle Lowry bringing the ball up. Avery Bradley on Kyle Lowry. Lowry to Tyler Hero. We're going to have PJ Tucker setting a high screen here for Hero. Hero going to use that first step, get a floater up, and then misses the shot. PJ Tucker trying to get the offensive rebound, but that right foot steps out of bounds. Nothing you
mm,
could do about that, but you still got to love the energy that PJ Tucker's coming with.
yeah.
We'll
Well, I was
see what kind
surprised
of
we didn't
defense they
see
set up here.
Caleb Martin in the fourth quarter. He provided a little bit of spark. You're at 7. I'm not sure exactly what his role would have been
Yeah.
at this point, but just to give them a blow a little bit, because right now they've been playing most of the second half. They've been putting up some significant minutes there. Kyle Lowry 42 minutes, Duncan playing 40 minutes in the game. Still coming up with that steal there. Tyler Hero driving on Malik Monk, bam, with a dunk to put them up too. That's nice.
Um, yeah, so we've got Monk here. Tyler Hero guarding him one-on-one. Monk with the pull-up. Trains it. Jeez. Talk about I think Barry Jackson from Miami Herald had some sort of tweet like
Yeah,
it's 98 points in his last 111 minutes against Miami, and he's just adding to that right now. I don't know what it
yeah,
is, but now you're getting Lowry on the switch. He's got Westbrook on his hip. Now Carmelo Anthony against Lowry. They're gonna run a screen and roll, getting Bam here back to Duncan Robinson, but we're gonna have a foul. I find sometimes that the Heat will like this kind of goes
yeah,
with their unselfish nature, right? Which
yeah.
we've critiqued in the playoffs and in things like that. Like sometimes you've got the switch there, like Kyle Lowry against Carmelo Anthony. That feels like the matchup you want. It kind of feels like something Lowry can just take advantage of one on one. As good as Carmelo has been for the Lakers, and he's been their third best player when LeBron has been out.
Right.
Kind of felt like Lowry should have attacked that. We get a screen and roll, Duncan Robinson and Bam Adebayo. Bam going up with the ball. No foul call there.
Oh, he
We
was
got Gabe Vincent in the
hammered.
ball game now in place of Tyler Hero. Giving Tyler
Yeah.
Hero a little bit of rest here, probably for a couple of minutes, maybe 1 minute here.
Oh, nice shot too. But I can't believe that Bam doesn't get that foul call against Carmelo.
Yeah, that's a little wild. And what are they going to do here? Anthony Davis going up. Looks like they're going
Oh,
to call the foul there.
yeah, that's okay.
Yeah. You can see Tyler Hero on the bench right now, just sort of tightening his laces, tightening up his shoes. He hasn't put any of his warm-ups on. You kinda get the sense that Gabe Vincent's in here just for a blow. Yeah, you see Tyler Hero just going right to the bench. So probably some sort of shoe problem here. Maybe like a sprained ankle. He's just tightening those shoes a little bit. He's gonna come back in for Gabe Vincent right now. Good to have Hero back in there, and he's gonna be matched up with Malik Monk, who's gonna have the inbound here. Russell Westbrook. PJ Tucker's still on Russell Westbrook here in the overtime period. And they've got Lowry matched up on Melo. Melo's trying to take him to the post. Lowry's not giving him any space. He's going to fade away with that turnaround jumper. Misses it. Duncan Robinson with the rebound. Kyle Lowry now bringing the ball up.
Ooh.
He's got Westbrook one-on-one. Gives it off to Duncan Robinson. Pitches it back to Lowry. Lowry coming off of the Bam screen. Gets it to Bam. Bam to Duncan Robinson. Duncan Robinson back to Bam. We got a dribble handoff back to Duncan Robinson. This would be a great shot to go in. Clanks off the front of the rim. He just can't get it in. I don't know what it is with Duncan Robinson. I don't know if it's just in his head. I've got some theories that we'll talk about when we kind of do the zoom out official version of this podcast, but it's been rough for him. Now you got Lowry on a switch against AD. Pokes the ball away. Can't get to it in time to save it. Get possession of this thing.
According to Jordan, our comments here, Tyler broke his shoe and had to replace him. So it's a good thing they had
pulled the old Zion.
Yeah.
Good thing that was quick work to go get him a new pair of shoes that fast.
Yeah, the pit crew for the Heat doing their job.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, Malik Monk.
Why does he hate us?
It might be. I don't know what you could do. I don't know if it's time to take Tyler Hero off of him. I don't know. I almost feel like maybe you'd be better off putting Duncan on him because you at least get some length in front of him because this guy, he's got that high arching shot. Oh, another turnover. Russell Westbrook bringing the ball up back to Anthony Davis, who lays it in the fast break. Lakers are up by 5 now. You need a bucket here with 1 minute and 53 seconds left. You can't go another possession or two without a bucket here. Lowry again with the ball. I say just let Tyler Hero go cook. Like, enough with this Lowry stuff. He's just not getting it done. Hero to PJ Tucker. They're not calling anything here below the rim.
Nope.
Heat can't buy a bucket. Lakers ball movement's working. PJ Tucker looks like he's getting called for the foul on Melo. Not really sure what the call was.
Travel.
A travel on Melo. Good break there for Miami then. Yeah, like I said, I think you just got to go to some bread and butter stuff. Your best offense this entire game has been setting up Bam somewhere in the mid-range or just letting Tyler Hero cook with just some off-the-dribble pull-up magic. All this other stuff hasn't really been working. I think that's what you got to do. Just let Tyler Hero go to work here.
Yeah. It sounds kind of simplistic, but it has been exactly what's been working.
Yeah, I mean, you would love for Spo to set up a play here, something like that. He has, but over the course of the season, he has set up nice inbounds plays for Tyler Hero. It doesn't necessarily have to be a 3 here, David. You could just get a 2. You can get a layup. They've got some baseline stuff that they've worked in for Tyler Hero. I think that's a good place to go. Maybe you can get to that floater, draw Anthony Davis away from the rim, and maybe get him and help Tyler get to that floater. That's something I would look at here if I were Miami, because you just got to get something easy. And unfortunately,
I'd like using
Butler out.
Yeah, using Duncan as some kind of a off-ball screener or something like that, kind of as a decoy, because he's going to draw multiple defenders because of his 3-point threat. You can get somebody in a backdoor cut or something like that. Duncan's
They ran that play earlier.
Yeah,
Duncan is inbounding the ball. It looks like, right? Yeah, so that's probably not going to happen. But they did run a play earlier with Duncan screening for Hero and sending Hero up that way. I think we only saw it once during this game. So now they're getting Bam on the post, back to Lowry, Lowry back to Bam, off of Bam's hands. Duncan Robinson recovers the loose ball. You've got Kyle Lowry now taking the 3-pointer. Rims out. Anthony Davis recovering the defensive rebound.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, Miami just going all in on these 3-point shots. I don't know what it is. I know that the Lakers are playing them into it, right? They've sagged off of basically everything. But you'd like to see them be a little bit more aggressive in trying something. PJ Tucker still back here on Westbrook. Westbrook muscling his way to the basket. Tries to pitch it out. It's a turnover. Duncan Robinson with the steal. Tyler Hero back to Duncan. Duncan with the 3. Doesn't go in, but it looks like he got fouled there on the play. He's going to get 3 shots at the line, David, and a chance to make this a one-possession game again.
Oh, selling the contact, and good for him because he rarely gets that call. So He may have made some contact with Duncan's left arm, and Duncan collapsing to the floor.
No, Avery
writhing in
got the
pain.
hand there. Avery got the
Yeah,
hand there. They're going to call that every single time. You're probably right. He sold it a little bit, but hey. All
yeah.
right.
I don't think grazing the fingers of his non-shooting hand
Hey, you
was
got to do
enough to
something to
send him to
get
the
these refs
floor.
to realize something's going
Hey,
on. So we got 50.9 seconds left. Duncan Robinson at the line. Drains the first one. Just make these, buddy. Oh, this is the second.
ah, I don't like that your feed is a few seconds ahead of mine. Are these his first free throws of the game?
Feels like they're his first free throws of the season.
Yeah. He's one of
Got,
3 so far.
oh,
Wait, one of
geez. He misses the last two there. So it's a 4-point game still.
oh boy.
44 seconds left. Russell Westbrook bringing the ball up. PJ Tucker still on there. They're going to try to set a back screen against him with Monk.
Oof.
Anthony Davis with the mid-range attempt. Clanks it. PJ Tucker recovers the rebound. Lowry bringing the ball up. He's going to get downhill, and he's going to get it to Bam here. Bam's going to get to the basket. He's going to get it, and that's going to be an and one. Another chance for Miami to make this a 1-point game. Bam at the free throw line with 23 seconds left. That's the kind of stuff that you were looking forward to with Lowry in these kinds of situations, is that situational basketball, right? That awareness to push the ball up and knowing that Bam is there trailing. That's what you love to see. Bam misses the free throw, and it's still a 2-point game, man. Just making your free throws, and the Heat have a 1-point lead if they're making these free throws, right? That's tough. 21.2 seconds left. Lakers with a 119-117 lead here, and they're going to have the ball back on offense. What do you do here if you're Miami? Do you foul immediately? Because Russell Westbrook's had the ball in his hands. If they get it to Monk, I don't know that you could foul. But if Westbrook's been clutch, though, I don't know. I don't know what you do here. Do you try to force a turnover quickly?
No, given how their 3-point shooting has been off, I don't think I wouldn't count on that. I don't think they can afford to give up even an extra point here. Go for the stop. See if you can force a turnover and hold your own there. I know they can just milk out the clock, but at some point, maybe. I
Do you
mean,
have a
I
limit?
guess.
Do you say, hey, like,
Yeah.
I think if you're the Heat here, you have to ask yourself, how much time are we comfortable with
Right.
on offense? And you let that amount of time tick off the clock and you try to force a turnover, or if it's clear right away that a turnover is not going to happen, then just go ahead and foul him. That's really the only way to play this. But I do think you have to aggressively try a turnover, and I wouldn't worry about 5 or 6 seconds ticking off the clock here. I wouldn't really worry about it if you've got a chance to trap or something like that and force a bad pass, right? Something erratic that you could pick off, because the Heat have been good at recovering those loose balls. Jimmy Butler just straight up in street clothes. I know that he was never going to return, but to not even be in uniform anymore, a little depressing.
And cheering on Duncan, too, trying to encourage him.
So Melo's
Duncan
going to
not on the floor.
inbound this, it looks like.
Oh,
Carmelo
Caleb Martin
Anthony.
in for Duncan Robinson, too. I guess for defensive purposes.
For defensive purposes, yeah, I suppose. And it looks like they've got – so Melo's going to inbound this. Russell Westbrook's on the other side of the court.
Yeah, stall the clock a little bit.
They're trying to get the nope. Bam's gonna get whistled for the reach in there. So Eric Spoelstra not happy about it. They thought that they forced a turnover. Let's get another look at this. So yeah, you've got Monk getting the pass to Melo. Bam Adebayo thinking he got the clean deflection there or something. But it's gonna send Melo to the line here. 18.7 seconds left. Bam Adebayo falling out. That is not good for the Heat. Not only for defensive purposes, but he's been one of your most consistent sources of offense here.
Sure.
So, not that it necessarily matters that much, because you've basically got to go. You got to shoot a 3 here, kind of regardless, or I guess not. But so Bam going to the bench. Gabe Vincent coming in. Again, I would imagine for defensive purposes. Vincent's going to be on Malik Monk. They're going to get another inbounds play here. Melo looking to deliver it to somebody. Heat playing decent defense here. That's pretty good.
Turnover.
Yep. Great defense there. They forced a turnover. I'm putting the sound up just a little bit just so that I can recognize what's happening here.
Yeah.
So we got a turnover, 5-second violation on the Lakers. Tyler Hero is going to inbound the ball. I'd imagine that this gets to Lowry, and then Tyler Hero tries to get the ball right back. Lowry going to bring the ball up. Hero coming off a screen to Lowry. He's got the ball against Russell Westbrook here. Takes the shot, misses it wide left. Carmelo Anthony with the defensive rebound, and that might be it because now you have to play the foul game. There's 6.5 seconds left. Tyler Hero, look, I'm not going to sit here and say that that was a good look, but it was that was the kind of shots he's been making all game, man.
That was even more tough than it needed to be. Like, you still have 6.5 seconds left on the clock. He could have found a way to use the dribble, like draw him into a foul trouble rather than just rush into taking those shots. Like, if he's rushed to taking a shot, it's usually because the shot clock is winded down or something like that. But that wasn't the case here. He had time. He still could have just dribbled back out.
Right.
Use that deceptive in and out dribble of his to try and lose a defender and create a little bit more space there. This is the common complaint about Tyler, is that for all of his shooting ability, he still does not miss free throw by Carmelo Anthony. So
yeah,
still a chance on a 3-pointer here with 6.5 seconds left.
You would think, to what is happening here in the chat, why not go for the tie, drive in, try to get a foul here? I mean, I agree. I thought that maybe the drive was there. I have to go back and look. But again, I'll say this. That's the shot Tyler Hero has been making this entire game. So it's hard to fault him too much, right? If you're feeling it, you're feeling it.
Right.
And the Heat haven't had much luck getting to the basket the second half of the fourth quarter and in this overtime period. But you would have liked to see them maybe try to force that issue a little bit more. To your point, there's still time left in the shot clock, still time left in the game clock there. But obviously feeling a little rushed. So 120, 117, 6.5 seconds left. What do you think?
Tim, I mean, it has to be Tyler.
Has to
just
be.
Because
give him another chance.
Does Lowry want it? Does Lowry ask Spoelstra in the huddle?
I don't want Lowry to want it. I don't want it. I don't want it for Lowry. I want it for Tyler Hero. I think you got to give it to him again.
I'd put Yurtseven in too, right? I mean, okay, so you've got Vincent out there, Yurtseven, maybe Martin as a 3-point shooter. That's not ideal.
I don't know that you need a center out there. Just go small all the way around. I'd plant PJ Tucker in a corner somewhere.
Yeah, that's not bad.
There's no reason you need a center here. I mean, the only reason you would want a center in a situation similar to this, if it were a 2-point game, there's a chance for an offensive rebound here. But this is a 3-point game, and with 6.5 seconds left, it's not like rebound Bosch, Ray Allen in the corners.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I was thinking that. Yeah,
but they do. They have Dedmon in the game, so
they're
getting it to Hero. Hero got a clean look. He fumbled the pass. Wow. Tyler Hero has a clean look, fumbles the pass. The pass was a little low, and it was cross court. But you got to imagine if he gets a clean catch, that's an ideal shot. But that is a defensive breakdown. Anthony Davis just failing to close out on that. Like, he kind of had a little bit of a brain fart there.
Good screen. Good
oh
screen
my
by
gosh,
PJ.
Fumbles the pass. He still got the clean look and almost had it in, but it goes off the back iron. Rebound by Dwayne Dedmon was key. He's at the line now with a chance to make it a 1-point game. Dwayne Dedmon misses the first free throw. So now I think you do the intentional miss here. I really do. Try to clank it off the front. Yep, that's what they're going to do. So you got Yurtseven and PJ Tucker. You're going to try to intentionally miss this and get the offensive rebound, kick out to one of your shooters for a chance. So that's what they're going to do. Yurtseven kicks it out. Nobody there, though. Almost worked. The Heat are going to lose this one, 120 to 117. That's a tough loss, David. That's a tough loss, but I'm trying to find a way to spin this positive, and I don't really, other than the fact that you lost Jimmy Butler there.
I think that's the biggest
between Bam
thing.
and Avery Bradley and Udonis Haslem. Obviously, same for Trevor Ariza. You got a bunch of former Heat players. Good game. Got it. It was at least entertaining.
We need to stop
Um,
defending Duncan. I'm with you right now. I'm not sure I can defend him tonight because that was probably his worst game of the season.
I'm
Yeah,
reversing this. I'm gonna rewind my feed here a little bit because I want to just take us through that final Tyler Hero chance there before Dwayne Dedman. Okay, so before Dwayne Dedman had the offensive rebound and the free throw line, because that all that stuff now you're talking about like a 0.01% chance of that, working out, trying to
right.
intentionally miss and get the offensive rebound, tip it just right to a shooter, and that shooter having enough time to get the ball up. So I'm gonna reverse it back here. I know that not everybody watching is doing that with me, but I'll try to illustrate it as best I can. Um, you're gonna have Kyle Lowry on the inbounds pass, and you literally and you have a double stagger screen with Deadman and PJ
And
Tucker. So
Tucker.
you're gonna get on the opposite side of Lowry. So this play is designed to get Tyler Hero the ball the entire time. I wish I could show this, guys, but we'd get hit with a copyright infringement. So we're not gonna do that here. But Tyler Hero flares off that stagger screen. And like I said before, Anthony Davis just slow to react to it. I think there was confusion on the Lakers' part of, okay, whose man is Tyler Hero now? Are we switching this off a double screen or are we not?
Right.
Um, Tyler Hero, again, just wide open. That pass is a little bit low from Kyle Lowry. He fumbles it. He still gets the clean look. It goes off the back of the iron. Then, but that's about as good of a look as you can hope to get. Um, I think. I mean, if he doesn't fumble the pass, though, you got to imagine that's pretty good. That probably goes
He
in.
was already looking ahead to the shot, and he hadn't caught the ball yet. That's the whole thing. He's trying to get into rhythm, but it completely disrupted his flow. And I
So
thought, I thought
yeah,
he'd be able to pull it off. To be honest with you, because it looked clean.
quickly, but because I want to cover this a little bit later, David. But the Duncan Robinson thing. It's becoming an issue. What is happening, right? It's in seriously 11 games. It's time for him to show up. We got another one here from Bam Adebayo. I don't care if Duncan starts hitting threes. It's threes created by others. You can't do anything outside of being a spot up shooter. Um, I don't know. I've got a theory, but I'd love to hear your thoughts first on what's going on with Duncan.
I think it's at this point just purely pretty psychological. Like we can't dismiss it because look, he had a decent game last time around in the most recent loss to the Nuggets. That was a good game overall from Duncan. Tried, a little two-way action there, being able to improve somewhat as a defensive player. 4 of 8 from the floor, if I recall correctly, from three-point range. But today, I look, we brought it up in the podcast before. It was a good point made by the Heat's Cooper Moorhead that the changing role of Duncan and the way he's using the offense not incorporated in dribble handoffs as much. But even still, we saw that in today's game. He was getting a lot of those familiar looks, vintage Duncan, if you will, from last season, the year before, when he was a record-setting three-point shooter. Just doesn't seem to get into it. He cannot seem to find a comfortable rhythm. And look, I know Bam Adebayo's point here, regarding that he's not creating these looks for himself. I understand you have to divest a lot of the energy and focus of your offense into getting him those open looks because he's not, he's on multiple screens, running off multiple screens, he's constantly in motion, etc. But that takes a lot of
Well, that's where I almost this is one of the notes that I have here, David, is I don't think that he's in the constant motion that we're used to seeing him in. I know that there's some cutting. I know that he's coming off of a dribble handoff and a screen here and there, but I it kind of feels like he's planted in a corner or just above the break a little bit more than I'd be comfortable with. I don't think that the constant motion is there the way that it used to be. Zach Lowe used to call him a serial screener. He's not the serial screener that he was. He is in the design plays, the design sets, but he's not doing what he did. Now, I don't know if that's because of the slump. It's a chicken or the egg type thing. Is it because of
Mhm.
the slump and there's a little bit less pep in his step? Or is this part of Miami's kind of reconfigured offense of, hey, we're going to do a little bit more isolation. We're going to let Jimmy Butler like isolate on the right block. Duncan Robinson, your job is to space the floor opposite in the corner or something like that. I'm not sure. I'm not really sure where it is, but the ball, the off ball movement that we're used to seeing from Duncan isn't there the way we're accustomed to seeing it over the last couple seasons.
That's a possibility. I mean, I know they do measure like what distance ran per game and things of that sort, and when the kind of play type that he's run. I'm not sure. I have not looked into those numbers myself because I hadn't considered that as a possibility. But he's clearly uncomfortable. I mean,
Yeah.
regardless of whether it's an actual schematic thing or a psychological issue, which I still think is a distinct possibility. It just look. We had a longtime listener, write in that the body language is off. That's kind of tough to read.
Right.
I hate kind of getting into that also, but he does look a little uncomfortable and unsure of what to do
Yeah.
next. And you cannot dismiss, like we've seen this from Duncan before. There was psychological pressure on him that he would put on himself last year, right around the trade deadline, when he was constantly in rumors going to Houston for James Harden or Toronto for Kyle Lowry
Right.
as a trade deadline. And then once it passed, all of a sudden he has this 40% plus shooting renaissance from 3-point range. So that we've seen this from him in the past, and it's understandable. As a player, as a human being, you're going to be impacted by all these external pressures. I wonder if there's a pressure that he's putting on himself because of the new contract. I can't see why it wouldn't. It just makes a lot of sense. You get paid, and a lot of people say, "Oh, from now you can kind of coast." Duncan is the kind of opposite, and I think I could see that approach from him saying, "You know what? Now that I'm getting paid, now that they've shown their faith in me, I'm putting more pressure on myself
Right.
to be able to live up to that value of that contract," and it just hasn't happened. And so it kind of has this snowball effect of,
Um, well, I think you're right. I think, you talk about Duncan Robinson, the entire imposter syndrome storyline and things like that.
yep,
I don't know what it is. I don't know what the reason is, but he's clearly in his head. I mean, I know that there was the missed layup there towards the end by Duncan Robinson. That was that was probably a 5-point swing that, in a game like this that goes to overtime, that really matters. There was another wide open three that he had, and you could just in the corner, and you could just see the hesitation. You could just see the hesitation from him there, and he misses it, and you could see him do the, kind of hits his head, and he's very clearly disappointed with himself. He's in his head right now. He
for
is,
sure.
and whatever the reason it might be, look, it's not the end. It's not like his career is over. I think that, sort of the reaction we see is definitely an overreaction. It takes
Yes,
one good shooting game. I predicted as Nostradamus that this would be the game that he jumps out or sort of breaks out of this slump. He'd still have a game against the Clippers tomorrow night, or maybe he could do it. But I'm telling you, this was the game where it felt like they really needed Duncan. They needed just another shooter. Max Strus was downgraded again. Maybe he's available. He's with the team. Maybe he's available for the Clippers tomorrow night. But they need another 3-point shooter, because when Duncan Robinson's not doing it, it's basically Tyler Hero doing all that kind of stuff on the move. And that's really it. Even Lowry was 2 for 10 from 3-point
yeah.
range, and he's
Five
usually
of
pretty money.
23. Yeah, 5 of 23 combined between Lowry and Duncan from 3-point range.
No
One
other,
more 3-pointer
yeah,
from each
Hero
of
was
them,
5
and
of
then they
8.
win by one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
you're right. I mean, they shot 27% from 3-point range. The Lakers shot 47.4% from 3-point range. I tweeted this going into the first half. The Heat had a 2 or a 4-point lead going into halftime, and I was like, a game where Jimmy Butler did not play the entire second quarter because of the injury. Turned out, and then he obviously didn't play for the rest of the game. And you couldn't generate any sort of consistent offense, and you missed 14 of your first 21 3-point attempts. To
yeah,
have a lead going into halftime was pretty incredible, even
yeah.
against the Lakers team that was without LeBron James. Russell Westbrook has been playing well for them lately. Anthony Davis also dominated in that first half. But the Heat, for the most part, I mean, they used a nice third quarter, and they established that lead early in the fourth quarter, and then they just gave it up. And I keep going back to this, but when you are just consistently relying on that mid range game, and you're not getting the 3-point shooting that you need from your 3-point shooters, because that's the thing about this Heat team. You have designated 3-point shooters, and it's a small rotation. It's a small bullpen of 3-point shooters. It's not a deep bullpen, right? If you want to use
Right.
baseball terms, it's not like, hey, Duncan's not doing well, put in Max Strus. He's injured. If Max Strus isn't doing well, put in X player. Like Gabe Vincent's not a 3-point shooter. Yurtsevic's not quite ready to play in NBA games just yet. KZ Okpala is basically an empty roster spot at this point. Like
Right.
it's not a deep bench, especially when it comes. I still think that this team needs to find a way to add a 3-point shooter at some point. They clearly need one.
Well, they're also missing Jimmy. That gives them the versatility to do multiple things
Right.
offensively. If you're not hitting the 3-point shots, and some of the most exciting wins of the season, they weren't able to knock down the 3-point shot. We kept talking about it. So like you're able to blow out teams by 20 points, and that's with Duncan going 2 of 10, 2 of 11, or something like that. Imagine if he catches fire. Well, so far he has yet to catch fire. But at least they had that mid-range game going. They had the ability to get to the line. Without Jimmy in the game, so much of their offense was missing. this game doesn't go into overtime if Jimmy's available. I know that seems pretty simplistic, but that's also pretty factual too. I think he does enough defensively there where he does not let them get those open looks. He's also another scorer that you can count on. That's what makes him the best player on this team, is that you can just continue to go to him the way that you went to Bam in the third quarter. You can go to Jimmy all game long, and he's going to be able to come up big for you, be able to get that quick foul, foul somebody out or get to the line at least for a couple points, slow the pace down, or at least be able to look for a shot and create it in a turnaround jumper or something along those lines.
So
Yeah, threw everybody completely out of sync there. I think losing Jimmy Butler, you're not quite sure, and maybe that's why it took them not just the second quarter, but also halftime to kind of figure themselves out and realize, well, we've got to do something differently because we can't just rely on Jimmy anymore.
I want to talk about what the Heat can do on the rest of this road trip because it has not started great. The Heat now 7-4 have lost. Was it 3 of their last 4 now? Do I have that right?
Yep. No.
And what they
Yeah.
can do to make the most of this road trip. But first, let's talk about our friends over at Bet Online, back and better than ever with a new web interface to start the basketball season. With more props, odds, and lines than ever before, Bet Online remains your number one spot for all of the basketball and football action this season. Head to the new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today, and you're going to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit when you use that promo code Locked On. From basketball, football, baseball, NHL, boxing, your UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage on all the amazing offers available for this season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all of your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, David. So the Clippers are, I would say tomorrow night, but it's tonight. It's 1:15 in the morning here. We're going to hear from Eric Spoelstra here in a minute and probably get an update on the latest on Jimmy Butler. I'm optimistic that he's not going to have to miss time, but we'll see because it's an ankle thing and it's the second day of a back-to-back, and usually you wait to the next day to kind of figure out to see how that ankle responds, right? How much swelling is there? How much pain is there? And how much pain can Jimmy Butler tolerate? And is it worth to go into a game on the second night of a back-to-back? So would not shock me if Jimmy Butler doesn't play against the Clippers, but I'm optimistic because I also think that the Heat want to try to make the most of this road trip that has not started off well with losses in Denver and against the Lakers here. So what are you looking for? Let's just spin it forward right away. I want to take some listener questions here in a little bit too. So if you've got a question, drop it in the chat. But what are you looking for tonight, I guess, against the Clippers?
A win, first and foremost, right? I think that's it. Like, they have to find a way of putting something together for a decisive 48 minutes. Like, there are going to be lapses like we talked about, but there were so many over the course of this game. This was, they lost the game. I don't think the Lakers won it so much as they lost the game. They just completely discombobulated, went away from whatever offensive identity they had slowly started to build in that third quarter. And I know a lot of that was exhaustion on Bam's part, just couldn't seem to maintain that furious pace where he was as productive as he was, where he was the hub of the offense. And they kind of got away from that. And look, without Jimmy there, as I mentioned before, they just didn't have anything else. So to find a way to win, as far as like an individual game, we have to continue to expect that Duncan will turn it around at some point. And I'm not sure. I know a lot of people in our comments are saying, well, he's not going to turn it around, especially in a road game, but he doesn't have any other opportunities to do so. Like, he's not going to be back for another 3 games. So might as well just try to see if you can get him going somehow. And it might not be the best thing. Look, I know there's the argument that, like, for a shooter, you just don't think about it, right? If the less time that you have to kind of fixate on your issues, it's better for you. So maybe the short turnaround between games would actually help Duncan rather than just kind of just feeling the intensity of this 2 for whatever performance of his.
Well,
Where did he go?
Yemi
3 or
writes in
13?
here, I don't really think the team is working on Duncan. He's too one-dimensional and seems to have been figured out by opposing coaches. He's way too limited.
I don't know about that.
There, as far as a player development standpoint, the Heat are still very much working on Duncan Robinson. I've actually seen improvements from him as a cutter. It's
Right.
one of the notes that I have. He's actually gotten better there. There are times where he attacks off the dribble. No, he's not as good as somebody like even Max Strus attacking off the dribble. That's not Duncan's game, but he is, or at least he was last year, one of the 5 best 3-point shooters in the NBA. I still believe there will be a progression to the mean at some point. You have to believe that. That's you see it time and time again with shooters that start in slumps. I know this is another slump. Maybe our commenters are right, and he doesn't find it on the road. I thought against the Lakers or the Clippers, who are poor 3-point defending teams that he
Mhm.
could. But that's why they call him Nostradamus and not Nostradamus. So who knows? But as far as opponents figuring him out, I don't know that they figured him out, but they have learned the best way to scheme against him, and that's to face guard him and deny him the pass. You see it time and time again. You saw it again in the Denver game. Somebody like Joe Ingles or whoever denying the pass to Duncan Robinson coming off screens. They fight over the opposite end of a screen when Duncan Robinson's coming around it. You would like to see him maybe, um, you know, reject screens. Even you typically hear the term rejecting a screen when somebody has the ball. Kyle Lowry, for instance, will reject a screen. And instead of going the way that the screen is set for, he'd go the opposite way. You kind of get the defense thinking you're going one way and the other. It's sort of a misdirection thing. Maybe Duncan Robinson could do that a little bit more. And that goes back to what I was saying before, David. The off-ball movement hasn't been there. And I think
Mhm.
Duncan can really help himself a lot if he just sort of recaptures that magic, whatever it is. I don't know if it's a conditioning issue. I don't know if
No.
it's just the wind's out of his sails because he's in the shooting slump, but he has to do more work off the ball. It starts with that.
That's a good point. And maybe that's what we look for. Maybe he'll be able to figure it out. I'm sure, he works so closely with Chris Quinn. That's his guy, right? And
Yeah.
we've seen that every time, every game when we're there at FTX Arena. They're always shooting early. They're always constantly talking to one another. You see Quinn very demonstrative on the sideline whenever Duncan makes a bonehead play in games and things of that sort. So I imagine that Quinney is looking for something specific to help identify a way of getting Duncan, just freeing him loose and getting him back into that comfort zone that he was in for so much of last season. But not a lot of time. They got to figure it out. They have to do something. Like, this is disappointing. You can't blame injuries either, because you were
No.
doing so well even without Jimmy Butler in the game. You were able to
You had
actually
the lead in
build a
the fourth
huge lead.
quarter. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
You're
it. It's
absolutely
on
right.
it's on the players who were out there. So you can't use the excuse of Butler's injury.
No, I mean, like I said, you had a lead going into halftime after Bam Adebayo and Dwayne Dedmon picked up early fouls. You had to play Yurtseven. You had to play Udonis Haslam 5 minutes in the first half. You still managed to keep a lead. Yeah, if Jimmy Butler plays this game, I think the Heat win, but
Sure.
they should have won without him. I want to move on though. Julian writes in, any silver linings tonight, David?
No, none.
None.
I no, I really I don't see it. Another good game from Tyler overall, even though they went away from him down the stretch. I mean, they did go to him in a couple clutch possessions, and he wasn't able to come up with a big shot there. Uh, Tucker providing big minutes and playing a lot. That's the whole thing. It feels like a waste. That's why it's hard to get any kind of real silver lining from this. Because as good as Tucker and Hero and a couple of other players were, to put in all this energy to find a way to play all these heavy minutes in an overtime game and then still wind up losing by 3 to a Lakers team missing their best player. I don't know. It's hard for me to find any silver linings. If you've got one, I'd love to hear it. I guess the brief stint from Omer Yurtseven, the appearance of Udonis Haslam still knocking down baseline jumpers. Other than that, I
Yeah.
find myself hard pressed to think of
Tyler,
anything else.
Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo, those are my silver linings. I thought they were awesome. Look, Bam got outplayed by Nikola Jokic in Denver, and I rewatched that game this morning, and it was even more glaring. I mean, just had a hard time with the size, and Anthony Davis looked like he was going to do the same thing against Bam in that first half. Anthony Davis just dominated. Was it 9 or 10 points in the first quarter or something like that?
Yeah.
From AD, and Bam just looked outmatched. But Bam in that third quarter was just absolutely dominant on both ends, not just offense, on both ends, David. And that's the level. And when you have him playing that way, and then Tyler Hero giving you what he gave them off the bench, again, 27 points on 11 for 22 shooting, 5 of 8 from 3-point range, zero easy shots, just zero good looks. All of it was tough. I have said this time and time again with this Heat team. I think you have a really high floor with Jimmy Butler, Kyle Lowry, even PJ Tucker. When Duncan Robinson's shot comes around, and it'll come around eventually. I just think those guys give you a high floor. But this ceiling is with Bam Adebayo and it's with Tyler Hero. And Tyler Hero is legit, and that to me is enough of a silver lining off of a disappointing loss. If you can just find one silver lining, that's good. But Bam being able to take over a game for an entire quarter when the team needed him, because Jimmy Butler goes out. It's announced during the second quarter that he's not going to return to the game. It's very clear that somebody needs to step into that void. You could tell, hey, Eric Spoelstra, Udonis Haslam, somebody said something at halftime saying, hey, Jimmy's not going to be with us for the rest of the game. Somebody's got to step up. They put Tyler Hero in that starting lineup in Jimmy's place. And then Bam is the one who steps up. And then later it's Tyler Hero. the way they responded to that, to me, that was the silver lining. The shots don't go in at the end. They had a look there at the end that they could have won the game. They had a couple looks where they could have won the game. I don't want to overreact to this. It's a disappointing loss from an emotional standpoint for the Heat, but I'm not going to overreact and say that the Heat are broken or that this thing is done.
No.
I still think they're a really impressive team. And
Yeah.
just again, the way that Bam responded and the way that Tyler Hero's been playing, that remains the silver lining of the early portion of the season, at least for me.
Yeah. Worth noting also, second consecutive game where they lose the rebounding battle, and they've lost it in all three of those losses over the last 4 game stretch. So the only game they were able to out rebound an opponent against Utah, much more able to keep to their identity. And of course, they wound up getting a big win over the Jazz too. So not, I don't know. It's just the things that they were doing well. I know a lot of people already have started to get concerned. We saw this in the Boston game, I think, where it was, you pointed out how they were finally able to just disrupt the flow of Miami's fast break opportunities, to keep them from getting those rebounds and those quick outlet passes and things of that sort. And now we've seen two other teams be able to do it. Of course, the Lakers were able to do it, not necessarily into the same. They were able just to control the board between Davis or Howard or somebody
Right.
else. They were just able to dominate the rebounding battle there and to keep Miami from getting into what they do so well offensively and be able to kick out ahead and find easy looks at the basket. So also not easy to do without Jimmy Butler too. So
6 steals for Bam Adebayo, by the way. The Heat 14 steals on the night, 3 for Duncan Robinson. So he tried
yeah,
to do something. Duncan's actually pretty good at getting into those passing lanes. He's tall.
yeah.
Um, he's been pretty good at that all season long. All right, one more break, and then we're gonna see if we get some news here from the Miami Heat in regards to Jimmy Butler's health. Spoelstra, Bam Adebayo, Tyler Hero, and Kyle Lowry all expected to speak to the media here soon. But first, this episode of Locked On Heat is brought to you by McDonald's, proudly serving communities since 1965. McDonald's has always been more than just a place to get tasty, affordable food. It's a place where friends and family can come to reconnect, a place where classmates can meet up for a study group, knowing that they're going to have dependable Wi-Fi and endless supplies of French fries and McFlurries. Win or lose, it's a place where teammates, competitors, the home team, the away team can come to recharge. It's the place you always look forward to stopping at on a long road trip to rest your legs and refuel. So head to your local McDonald's today to refuel and reconnect. McDonald's, I'm loving it. All right, back here, David, getting to some questions. We need to get Tobin on our podcast, according to Bam. That's not so much of a question. We'll ask Tobin, I guess.
Sure.
Yeah. Ask us for other, send us other requests for guests. We have some lined up, not Tobin. We can always ask him. All right.
I think he's busy now.
Well, he's definitely busy on game days, and I think he's got that early morning show, so he's probably asleep by now, or he's just gonna pull an all-nighter. I don't know, but yeah, get us your questions in here on the comments. In the meantime, David, I'll go back to. I want to zoom out a little bit. The Heat are 7-4. They're now 3-3 away. Well, let's just get to this question because it's exactly where I wanted to lead you. What is happening, right? And do you feel tomorrow will be a bounce back win against the Clippers?
I do, but I've kind of had I've had faith in this team's ability to figure it out, right? Because there's enough veteran leadership and experience and all the other kind of cliched attributes that you look for in a guy like Lowry and Tucker, et cetera, and Butler. I think if they are without Butler, at least they have some kind of clear understanding going to the game. Okay, we can't rely on Jimmy to just save our asses and bail us out of a situation. We know exactly what we have to do early on, and we have to stay consistent with it rather than go through these various different fluctuating versions of this team over the last, 2 quarters of play and overtime there where they were just trying to figure out who they were, and it worked for a brief time, but then they kind of just fell apart and stopped doing it. So, yes, I do see a bounce back win against the Clippers because there is a sense of urgency now. I know you can be dismissive of it and say, oh, it's just a regular season, but you've got to be able to find a way to win, especially when you have a lead and you squander it as badly as you did tonight. So,
yeah. Yeah,
you?
I do. I think they bounce back. I do.
I'm not happy
I
about the
don't think.
matchup against Paul George. I mean, he's been playing exceptionally well.
Yeah, I mean that's going to be a big one to have Jimmy Butler, and if Jimmy's not playing, I think you just put PJ Tucker on Paul George.
Sure.
I think that the Heat have, even without Jimmy Butler, if he's not able to go, I think they just have more weapons. I really do, at the end of the day. And the Clippers defense has not been good.
Right.
I'm sorry, the Clippers offense has not been good. The defense has been fine. But I outside of Paul George. And I think the Heat on the second night of a back-to-back, I think there's gonna be look, this was an exhausting game, and
Yeah.
we watched it. It was physical. This was a physically draining game, so that would be the only reason why it wouldn't be. And then you look on the, the rest of the schedule, you got at least a couple of days off before you have to go to Utah on Saturday, but the Jazz are gonna come out
Yeah.
wanting
Angry.
to get, revenge for the loss, that they had against the Heat last week.
Yep.
And then you've got Oklahoma City, who have been
They're
surprisingly
feisty.
scrappy.
Yeah.
They're a bunch of young guys. They play hard. I think that's got to be a win if you're Miami. But right now, you're at risk. You're at risk of kind of going on a losing road trip here because you're 0-2 on this 5-game road trip. And I think, obviously at best, all you could do is 3-2, and that's kind of pushing it. But
0-5 could be a possibility, and at that point, I hate to see what the state of Heat fandom would be
yeah,
like. But
I don't even want to entertain it. It'd be
that,
uglier than what we dealt with this week.
that's saying something.
Bam out of the bio writes in, do you think we need to make one more move like a trade? I'll say this, David, and I texted you this during the game. It was painfully obvious in this game that I think the Heat are at least 2 guys short. Gabe Vincent played a lot of minutes tonight. Omer Yurtseven, 4 minutes is 4 minutes too much. I'm sorry. I like him. I love his upside. It's just right now, I mean, you saw him. I know he had that nice take, that wide open take to the basket, but he was almost just surprised to be on the court. He looked nervous. I didn't think he needed to, like, you can't be relying on him every single night. Like you said, Gabe Vincent, 13 minutes for him, 15 minutes for Caleb Martin. I wasn't super impressed with his minutes tonight. Yeah, I think this team, you're not getting anything from KZ Okpala. I think this team has at least 2 more guys that they need to add to this bench. I think you need to add a shooter. I think you need to add a playmaker of some kind. Obviously, getting Victor Oladipo will help, but I
Mhm.
still even think with Depot healthy, you're probably it's hard to do what the Heat want to do with basically 3 spots on your roster going to developmental guys, not even including Caleb Martin, who's just on a 2-way contract, and that's fine.
Well, we're at the 11-game mark, 9 games away from
Yeah.
the what is it, the measuring stick that Pat Riley identified to reporters before the season, the 20-game benchmark that you want to see what kind of team this is. And he was there in Los Angeles in
He
attendance
was.
watching this team play. So I wonder, uh, I, I don't know if he has any kind of sense of urgency in terms of having to rush out to make a move. I don't even know who's available either. I mean, you could say it would be great to package, a number of players for a Harrison Barnes or something like that, but that seems highly unlikely. You just don't have the kind of assets. You can't include, Gabe Vincent and Casey Okpala and get a quality rotation player in
No.
exchange. So I just don't.
I think the only way you do it is via buyout, right? You trade Gabe Vincent or KZ Paul into somebody else's
Cap
roster,
space.
cap space, whatever, and just figure out how much cash do you need to make this happen? What kind of compensatory fake second round pick do you need to make this happen?
Right.
And maybe, Adrian Wojnarowski reported today that the Rockets and John Wall are working to find a trade for John Wall. That's not going to happen. John Wall's not
Yeah.
getting traded. So the next
Right.
logical step in that is, all right, what's it going to cost to just buy you out of here, right?
Right.
John Wall has that player option in that second year. He's not turning that down. He's going to
Right.
try to get as much of that money as possible, guaranteed, and that could be a way to just get a lump sum of it right now, and then maybe get into a winning environment. The other Houston Rocket that I was thinking of, and I was watching that Rockets Pistons game on ESPN before the Lakers Heat game. Somebody needs to free Eric Gordon, right?
Yeah.
Like, just the forgotten guy from those title teams. PJ Tucker got out. James Harden got out. Clint Capella got out. Eric Gordon's still toiling away for a rebuilding Rockets team. You feel bad for him. He's a good shooter.
Mm.
His percentages have not been great over the last couple of years, but he's got no help there.
Right.
Caitlin Cooper wrote a nice piece for 538 right before the season started about how he still demands so much respect and he still creates so much space, even though those percentages have been down, because he's a respected, reputational shooter with a high volume of shots over his career. I think you could do worse than if Eric Gordon gets bought out, bringing him in on the minimum. I think that would be somebody you need to consider. Thaddeus Young has been talked about. Obviously, Kevin Love has been talked about. That would be the home run of all home runs. Those are all the
Not
guys
according
I'm
to Heat
looking at.
fans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you got to get – I think you need to add 2 bodies. I think no less than 2 bodies. I know we're not at the 20-game mark yet, but like I said, you want to do something serious this year, you've got that 15th roster spot open. You've got to go into the tax. You have to do it. I don't care about the repeater stuff, whatever, Mickey Harrison. I'm sorry that cruise lines are down lately, but you got to do it. You got a chance here. KZ Okpala, Gabe Vincent, one of those. You got to swap them out. You got to add at least 2 more bodies, veteran bodies who you trust in a spot in a playoff type of situation or in a game like this where you very clearly need one.
Could they look to bring in Brandon Knight from their G League team?
It depends on how he looks, right? I mean, I think that's an
So far,
option
he's
if he
had
looks good.
yeah.
I think, look, that's got to be the reason why you brought him onto your G League team is to be like, all right, there is, and that's a good point. Like, you do that knowing that you need some sort of veteran presence and that this is a low risk, high reward type of deal. And if he can
Mhm.
kind of look good coming off of injuries, that have plagued him over the last couple of years, yeah, maybe
Well,
that's an option for him.
I don't like Bam out of the Bayou suggestion here. Duncan Robinson for Kristaps
No, thank you.
Porzingis. No. As bad as Duncan's been, no. In a million years, that would not help. Like I tried talking myself into it when you saw the inability of Porzingis and Doncic to kind of function cohesively last year in the playoffs, and he was kind of questioning his role and things of that sort. But I thought about it, and I don't like the idea.
No, we're done. Not doing that. Healthy Depot and Struce answers the playmaker and shooter problems. Look, I think that's fine. I just, again, in a playoff situation, if this team is healthy, even with Victor Oladipo back, that's still a lot of that's still a lot of Max Struess, man. That's still a lot of Caleb Martin on a 2-way contract. Even you get those guys back, I still think you need to add a couple bodies. Even if they don't have to play every night. I just don't know how much I trust Struess. I don't know how much I trust the Caleb Morton. I don't know if you could trust Depot coming off these injuries. We don't know. We don't know. I think you still need better safe than sorry. You got to go add some guys.
We've just seen, however, that the buyout market doesn't really start to pick up until after the trade deadline.
Yeah.
That these teams will continuously work the phones over the next couple of months, and these deals, as much as we all love the idea of them taking place over just a quick conversation, in a dark, smoky room where you just make a quick call, and all of a sudden you're able to send 5 players that you don't want on your roster for that one superstar that's going to transform your team instantly. That's not the case. There's just a lot of kind of back and forth and conversing about what players want and what you want in exchange, and hang up the phone and things of that sort. Like, I know how it's reported. I know how these rumors get built up and stuff like that. It's fun. It's fun to keep track of these transactions and things of that sort for a lot of fans. But nothing's going to happen until February when the trade deadline passes. Then you start to see players, veterans, that are saying, "Okay, you couldn't find a deal for me. Now let's talk turkey. Let's see what we can get out of this, and how to move on, because it's mutually beneficial for both the player and the team to look elsewhere."
Yeah, it's not going to happen anytime soon, to your point. And you don't you hate to say, okay, the Heat need to just stay above water until that time. I just think that this is a rough trip for them. The
It
health
is.
the health thing has been an issue, right? Guys are just getting beat up, but it's kind of what we expected from this Heat team. And the way that they play, as physical as they play, they kind of put their bodies in those situations where there can be a Jimmy Butler type of deal like it happened here. So um, that is my main concern. That is my main concern right now. Is just the overall health of this
Mhm.
team, and we're 11 games in the season. We've already you're already getting nicks and scratches and some scary moments. And obviously, Markieff Morris wasn't available tonight because of the whiplash incident. But
Right. That's
um,
another good point. Yeah, you're
yeah,
down another body who's stepped up big and could get a big rebound, who can stay with Carmelo Anthony, because you know what? He was another teammate of a lot of these Lakers players, so he knows exactly how to handle a guy like Dwight Howard or something, like to keep him off the glass to some extent. Maybe he could have defended Anthony Davis so that maybe you don't get Bam into early foul trouble, etc. Which kind of threw him off his rhythm. I will say all this, as much as there's a very good possibility, as much as I dislike saying it, and as much as our listeners and viewers probably don't like hearing it, this team could lose a lot over the regular season, and that's okay. Like, I think this team, we've seen what they can do. And if, to your point, Wes, if they're able to add another couple functional
Yeah.
players, whether it's an Oladipo or a buyout candidate or somebody else along those lines, a veteran that knows exactly what their role can be on this team in a playoff situation, I think is still better than any other team in the league, or can be. If everything is working as well as we've seen over the first few games when they were dominating, they could go just hovering above 500 for the rest of
Yeah.
the regular season. And as long as they enter into a 7-game series, I still like their chances. I still think that even though teams have kind of figured them out, you get just the right blend of players. And again, another boost here and there, like we saw from Jay Crowder a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
He came onto this team and nobody expected it. That Heat team was really, really good. And then they incorporated Jay Crowder. He was coming off the bench. And then once they go into the Orlando bubble, all of a sudden he adds a whole other dynamic level of play to this team and completely transforms what they can do offensively and defensively. And it worked. And they went on that deep playoff run all the way to the finals. So I still like this team's chances.
I do too. And look, they got a rough schedule to start this thing. And the fact that they were 7-2 out of a really tough stretch to start the season, even with all the home games before
Yeah.
this 5-game road trip, which is always tough when you start it in Denver and then you got to take on the two LA teams on a back-to-back set. This is a rough road trip. And Pat Riley talked about it. Like, yeah, the first 20 games are a marker. I think how they look is going to be more important than what their record is, to your point. And to go back to our silver lining that we were talking about before, Tyler Hero is a bona fide scorer. I don't care if he's coming off the bench. I don't care who he's. That dude was doing it against starters. I wrote about it for the West Side. There's a lot. 50% of his points are coming against opposing other teams, not just starters, but star players. He's been awesome, and the fact that you have him, you have somebody like Bam showing flashes the way he did tonight for an entire quarter on both ends. You were able to be in this game without Jimmy Butler. Um, there are things you still like about this team. This is not a sky is falling loss. It's a
Hmm.
disappointing loss for the Heat. It is not a sky is falling loss. I still think that Miami are legit contenders. You don't want to read too much into one loss, but I think right now the most important thing is get healthy and just realize where your holes are, because there are holes on this roster. But I think the Heat, at the end of the day, have the means to fill them. Probably not anytime soon, but somewhere down the line. But the next thing is the Clippers tonight, and we'll have another recap of another game at Staples Center for you for Friday morning. We'll have a recap of Nostradamus' predictions and how he did. That will also be coming Friday. But this was our live stream. We appreciate everybody who popped on at 1:30 in the morning. I know it was late for everybody, but everybody get some rest. Enjoy your holiday tomorrow, and we'll see you back here for another episode of Locked On Heat. Remember that you can reach us Locked On Heat at Gmail, Locked On Heat on Twitter. Then you can find me and David on Twitter as well. But for now, that'll do it. We're signing off.